Hello everyone, it's me Luthfia. Today we are going to learn about designing classroom language tests. First, we will learn about type of tests. There are some type of tests that we should know. The first is language aptitude test. So, language aptitude test or nowadays is well known as modern language aptitude test is a test that measures an individual's aptitude for learning a foreign language. The main objective of this test is to measure foreign language learning aptitude. However, every institution has its own objective in conducting the test. For example, private school. In private school, the goal of language aptitude test is for advising students who might be interested in studying a foreign language. The second, government agencies. So the government agency conduct a language aptitude test as a purpose for identifying personnel who would benefit the most from the time and expense of intensive language training program. And the third is clinical psychologists. Clinical psychologists conduct a language aptitude test for determining if a student has a foreign language learning disability or not. And then language aptitude tests or modern language aptitude tests consists of 5 parts. The first is number learning. It requires examiners to learn a set of numbers through oral input and then discriminate different combinations of those numbers. The second is phonetic script. It asks examiners to learn a set of correspondences between speech sounds and phonetic symbols. The third is spelling clues. It examines must read words that are spelled as they are pronounced rather than according to standard spelling conventions. They must then select from a list of words the one whose meaning is closest to discussed word. The fourth is word in sentence. So it measures examiners' awareness of grammatical structure. The examiners are given a keyword in a sentence and are then asked to read a second sentence and select another word that functions in the same ways as the keyword. The fifth or the last is paired associates part. So examiners must quickly learn a set of vocab words from another language and memorize their English meaning. And then how modern language aptitude tests administered. So modern language aptitude tests may be administered to individuals or to groups. The basic kit of the test include test booklet, practice exercises sheet, examine answer sheet, CD, and scoring stencil, and examiner's answer sheet. The second type of test is proficiency test. So proficiency test is a test that measures a student's level of language. For example, TOEFL test and IELTS test. The third is placement test. So placement test is a test to determine a new student's academic ability in order to assign him or her to an appropriate class or course. There are some types of placement tests. The first is written and oral performance. The second is open-ended and limited response. And the third is multiple choice and gap filling. The fourth type of test is diagnostic test. So diagnostic test is a test that helps the teacher and students identify problems that they have with the language. For example, so the example of diagnostic test is pretest. So at the beginning of the course, the teacher gives the student a diagnostic task to see what areas of language need to be in the syllabus. The next type of test is achievement test. So achievement test is a test evaluates a student's language knowledge to show how their learning has progressed. Achievement tests are typically given after a class completes a certain chapter or unit at the conclusion of the course. A language teacher may give a final exam at the end of the semester to see how well a student has retained the information they were taught over the course of the semester. Achievement tests are typically graded and are meant to reflect how well the language tester is performing in their language learning studies. Now we will move to the second topic, steps to task construction. The first is assessing clear and ambiguous objective. So in conducting a test, we as a teacher or you need to know as specifically as possible what it is you want to test. In addition to know the purpose of the test you are creating, you need to know as specifically as possible what is you want to test. You can do this by examining the objective for the unit you are testing. The second is drawing up test specification. The specification include a broad outline of the test, what skills will be tested, and what the items will look like. The third is devising task tasks. Devising tech tasks or writing task item is the central part of task construction. Here, the teacher or you have to express and write what your student have to do to show what ability or competencies you want to see. Ideally, you need to try out all of your tasks before actually administering the task. But in our daily classroom teaching, the tryout phase is almost impossible. Alternatively, you could enlist the aid of a colleague to look over your task. And so you must do what you can do to bring to your student an instrument that is on the best of your ability, practical and reliable. The fourth is designing multiple choice item. So there are some steps in this step. The first is design each item to measure a specific objective. Test item should be related to the intended learning outcomes to be measured. The second, state both STEM and option as simply and directly as possible. So the task set forth in the STEM of the item should be so clear that a student can understand it without reading the alternatives. The third, make certain that the intended answer is clearly the only correct one. So the problem in this term of multiple choice item should be stated as precisely as possible and should be free of unnecessarily complex wording and sentence structure. The fourth, use item indices to accept, discard, or revise item. The appropriate selection and arrangement of suitable multiple choice item on a test can be accomplished by measuring item against three indices. The first, item facility. So it is the extent to which an item is easy or difficult for the proposed group of the test taker. If the test item is too easy, 99% of respondents get it right, or too difficult, 99% get it wrong. Item facility simply reflects the percentage of the student answering the item correctly. So the formula will be like this. The number of students answer the item correctly divided by the total number of students respond to the item. And the appropriate test item will generally have item facility that range between 15 and 85. If the number of the student respond to the item is 20, so the student respond correctly is 3, the item facility index is 15, which means that the item is too difficult for the students. The second is item discrimination. So it is the extent to which an item differentiates between high and low ability test takers. An item that garners correct response from most the high ability group and incorrect responses from the most of the low ability group has good discrimination power. For example, suppose the class has 20 students taken a test. Divide them into third, that is 3 rank or third ability groups, including the top score of 10, the middle 10, and the lowest 10. Eliminate the middle group, leaving 2 groups with the result that might look something like this on the particular item. So for the high ability students and low ability students. In high ability students, the student that can answer the question correctly is 7 students, and the student who cannot answer the question correctly is 3 students. And in low ability students, the student who can answer the question correctly is 2 students, and the students in low ability that cannot answer the question correctly is 8 students. So the formula will be high group correct, subtract by low group correct, and divided by a half, multiply total of your comparison group. So the result is 0.5. So the result of the sample test item tell us that the item has a moderate level of item discrimination. High discriminating power would approach a perfect 1.0, and no discriminating power at all would be 0. Next is distractor efficiency. So the distractor learn a sufficient number of the test taker, especially lower ability ones. And those responses are somewhat evenly distributed across all distractors. Scoring, grading, and giving feedback. So this is the last topic in this video. Scoring, grading, and giving feedback. So in scoring, as we design a classroom test, we must consider how the test will be scored and graded. The scoring plan reflects the relative weight that we place on each section and item in each section. For example, we are going to assign scoring for the integrated skill that focuses on listening and speaking skills with some attention to reading and writing. Our decision about scoring tests can be like the example, as you can see on the screen. This is the example of the scoring. Since we focus on the listening and speaking, so the percent of total grade of oral interview or speaking is 40%, and for the rest, listening, reading, and writing are 20%. Next, we have grading. So assigning grades to the student performance on the test is not just given an A or B and so on. How we design letter grades to the test is a product of the country, culture, and context of the English classroom, institutional expectation, explicit and implicit definition of grades that we have set forth, the relationship we have established with the class, student expectations that have been endangered in previous tests and quizzes in the class. Giving feedback. So scoring and grading would not be complete without giving feedback to the students, since we need feedback as beneficial aspect. So that's all about today's material. If you have question or comment, you can drop it in the comment section below. See you in the next video. Goodbye.